It's official. Trump and the Republicans have achieved a major victory, winning the presidency, Senate, and House in the 2024 election, a trifecta that signals a huge shift in U.S. politics. While the final count for the House is still coming in, Republicans are confidently nearing the 218 seats needed for majority control, with more likely to follow. This Republican trifecta marks a historic comeback, the first since Trump's original victory in 2016. In this video, we'll break down the key factors behind Trump's win over Harris, the surprising Republican victories in traditionally blue states, and the dynamics that allowed them to retake the House. Starting with the presidential race, Trump achieved dominant wins in core Republican states and crucial battlegrounds. In Texas, he won by a strong 14 points, a significant 9-point shift to the right compared to his 2020 margin of 5 points. Florida showed an even bigger swing. Trump won by 13 points, a 10-point increase from his 3-point lead in 2020. Even in Iowa, where some polls initially showed Harris with a slight lead, Trump won by 13 points, improving on his 8-point lead in 2020. But Trump didn't stop there. He also made inroads in reliably blue states. In New York, a longtime Democratic stronghold, Harris led by only 12 points this year, a significant decrease from Biden's commanding 23-point lead in 2020. New Jersey showed a similar trend. After Biden's 16-point win there in 2020, Harris's lead dropped to just 6 points. Perhaps most tellingly in California, her own home state, Harris maintained only a 20-point lead, a full 10 points down from Biden's 30-point lead in 2020. These shifts show that Trump's appeal stretched beyond red and swing states, making gains in areas previously thought to be firmly Democratic. Trump is also on track to win the popular vote. The polling wasn't even that far off this time. They did still underestimate him slightly, but nationally Trump led by 0.8% on Election Day. If this wasn't a bad sign for Harris, I don't know what was. The writing was on the wall that Democrats were going to lose this election in a modern-day landslide. Donald Trump is going to win a majority of the votes for the third time in a row, breaking the record for the highest number of votes won by a Republican candidate, a record he previously broke in 2016 and again in 2020 when he won around 70 million votes. This time, he will reach at least 75 million. Kamala Harris wasn't just defeated in the Electoral College. Democrats no longer have the argument that they've won the popular vote, as it seems the people have turned on them and now favor the Republicans. Polling wasn't too far off in the battlegrounds either. The only two states where Harris was leading were Wisconsin and Michigan, states that historically overestimate Democratic support. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win by around 5 points in these states, Joe Biden by around 7 to 8, yet Clinton lost both Wisconsin and Michigan, and Biden barely won. Trump ended up sweeping all 7 battlegrounds. There were moments in August and September when it looked like Harris had a good chance, but as we came into October, Trump surged, and there was no going back for the Democrats. Based on the polls, the electoral map had Trump at 287 and Harris at 251, with only Wisconsin and Michigan in the blue column. Ultimately, Trump won all 7 battlegrounds, including Wisconsin by 0.9% and Michigan by 1.4%. This ended up being the worst Democratic performance in nearly 40 years. Only Michael Dukakis performed worse in 1988. Even Hillary Clinton won 232 electoral votes in 2016. No Democrat has performed as poorly as Harris since Dukakis against George H.W. Bush. Trump's win of 312 electoral votes is just as impressive as Ronald Reagan's 1984 sweep of 49 states. Trump didn't win as many electoral votes or states, but being able to win by this much in today's polarized political era is significant. Republicans also dominated in the Senate, where they're going to pick up at least 52 seats and possibly 53. Bob Casey is still refusing to concede a race he's clearly lost, trailing by 0.6%. This was one of the biggest surprises of the election. In 2018, Casey defeated Republican Lou Barletta by 13 points, but he has now fallen off dramatically and is on track to lose a seat he's held for 18 years. Republicans also performed well in Wisconsin and Michigan, two races they were expected to lose by at least 5 points at one stage. Tammy Baldwin and Alyssa Slotkin, two Democrats, were ahead by double-digit margins at one point. But ultimately, Eric Hovde is going to lose by less than 1% to Baldwin, who will win a third term, while Slotkin will win her first six-year term in the Senate, defeating Mike Rogers by just 0.3%. This race couldn't have been more competitive. In Nevada, Jackie Rosen was on track to win by a double-digit margin, but she will ultimately come out ahead by just 2%. Sam Brown, the Republican, ran a powerful campaign and performed incredibly well, showing a promising future in Nevada politics or the national GOP. The only Senate race where Republicans should feel disappointed is in Arizona, where Kari Lake will lose her second election. She lost the governorship to Katie Hobbs in 2022, and now she will lose the Senate seat to Ruben Gallego by about 2%, even though Trump is winning in Arizona by 5 points. Lake is underperforming the former president by a significant 7-point margin, which is quite notable in one of the most competitive states. Lake could have appealed more to moderates, as Arizona is still a key battleground state and leans slightly in favor of the GOP. Even without that seat, Republicans are still going to get up to 53 with McCormick's win in Pennsylvania. The networks are slow to call this because Casey is contesting it, but McCormick will be sworn in early January as Pennsylvania's new U.S. Senator. All in all, election night couldn't have gone better for Republicans, especially in the Senate. They had an automatic flip in West Virginia with Joe Manchin not running for re-election, one in Montana with Tim Sheehy defeating John Tester by 8 points, and in Ohio, Sherrod Brown loses by 4 points. Both Tester and Brown were running for fourth terms and were ultimately unsuccessful. In the House, it will be close, but Republicans are in a position to take back control. They are expected to get at least 218 seats, having defended races in New York and California, where vulnerable Republicans performed well. Democrats' poor performance at the presidential level impacted these House races as well. Looking at these races, Republicans will likely end up with around 220 seats. David Valadao, one of the Republicans who voted to impeach Trump, will likely be re-elected, and Nick Begich in Alaska will probably win against incumbent Democrat Mary Peltola, flipping Alaska red again. All in all, the 2024 race was a resounding victory for Republicans. They have a mandate from the American people stronger than in the past 2 decades. Trump won the presidency, the Senate, and the House with 312 electoral votes, also winning the popular vote, something he didn't achieve in 2016 or 2020. Democrats won a trifecta in 2020, but the situation has now completely reversed. Republicans are on track for a solid Senate majority, and in the House, they'll have the votes to pass legislation. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I also wanted to thank you all for the incredible support on election night. I couldn't be more appreciative of everyone who tuned in. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.